We did promote this on social media, so we're hoping to. Oh, I think we missed that picture.
Oh,
we might have missed it. Yeah.
Oh shucks.
You need a headset.
That's a shame because it comes out really weird. But she can maybe cut that out.
Yeah, for sure she can. Plug this in.
Yeah, make sure you plug this in too.
Which one?
Anyone, but this one's unplugged. You want about 3 minutes?
We are
Even less.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we give you a shout out signal?
Yeah, you can just say in the mic so we want to start now.
Fine, very good. Okay. And Mike, I'm pretty sure we're gonna plow through the break as well.
That's awesome. Cool.
Can't wait if we're already on YouTube live. Let's see. Let's get in here. Live. I think they changed something here. There we go. YouTube. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. We're just getting Facebook set up. Please bear with us a moment. They actually just changed something on Facebook today, so it's pretty annoying. But I'm going to switch to the previous version. Is my friend request? Okay. Yeah. But then again, you're ruining our thing.
Right. Let's just go live.
Okay, regular camera, what's this?
Oh.
Good, okay, we're in. Fine, I think we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. Hi to everybody. Hi Elaine and Ezra, Shalom and Stephanie. Okay, so we're getting ready to start right now. Hold on, almost ready. Do we have our notes on? Are we good?
We do.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna move it over. I'm actually gonna go on to airplane mode here.
Oops.
Good, okay, great. Where's my pen?
It's right here. I have it.
Okay, we are ready to roll.
I feel like I'm not very centered. Lay down your teardrop. Okay. Oh, Keith Kleineck joined us.
Hi, Keith. How's it going? Okay, we're about to get ready for the radio. We're about to just...
Hi, Mickey and Cookie.
Shalom, Mickey. Now, guys, please feel free to post your questions as we go along. We'll see what happens, okay? All right, so we're getting ready to start. Is the camera ready? It's good? This is good?
I think the camera's ready.
Okay, fine. Let's do this. Is the thing blocking us at all? Okay.
I think we're good to go.
I'm going to move this over. We don't need this one right now, right?
Oh, it shows that we have 6 people watching. We didn't see who the other 2
Yeah, it's fine. You can't tell on Facebook. On YouTube, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. So let's get this party started.
Hi, Ed.
We're starting on time departure here, just 9 minutes late. That's good. Okay. Ready?
Yes. Ready to rock and roll. Sounds good.
You need a drink?
I'm good.
Water?
All set.
Okay, Mike, we're ready to roll. Let's get the cameras. Mike, you ready? Starting the signal? Perfect. Ready? Separating the facts from the fiction, the Baba Meisters from the bottom line. Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunday Schmooze with the Rabbi and Rebbitzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler. My wife is Rebbitzin Chana Vigler of Chabad Palm Beach Gardens. And today we're very excited to take on a special presentation called A.M.A. It's Ask Me Anything. Any question you've ever wanted to ask the Rabbi or Rebbitzin, anything you've ever wanted to know about Judaism, right here.
Yeah, this is really exciting because after the reaction from last week's incredible conversation, it seems that there are so many questions, so many misconceptions people have out there, and we thought it would be really fun to take your questions and clear everything up. So we have a lot of really, really great questions that came in, And we're going to get started.
One thing we did this week was a very special presentation we had with the world's largest Jewish website. It's Chabad.org. We had a very special interview. We were the guests.
Yeah.
Called Debunking the Myths of Orthodox Jewish Life. We got about 15,000 views on Facebook. So that's pretty exciting. And we're looking forward to taking it further today right here. So let's get started, ready?
Yes.
So we've received a lot of questions that various people have asked us in the past couple days, ever since we've advertised this A.M.A. show, the Ask Me Anything show. And we're going to try to sift through them as fast as we can. We're going to try to get you good answers to very good questions, and we hope that you'll be happy. Please feel free to post your comments or questions onto Facebook and YouTube at facebook.com/Jewish Gardens or youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. We'd love to interact and engage with you in real time. So we're going to start off, Hannah, with the first question, which is one of the most ubiquitous components of observant Jewish life, and that is the mechitza, the divider that separates between the men and the women in a traditional synagogue. Why is it that we have a mechitza to separate between the men and the women in shul? And the way it was posed to me by Keith, why can't the men control themselves in temple?
So I think this question is probably one of our most asked questions. It just seems everybody seems bothered by this. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to give you my take on it. So for starters, what I really want to establish is that until very recently, the center of Judaism was always in the home. Everything happened there. And for that, the Jewish woman, the Jewish mother, the Jewish wife was always the center. It was all on her. She's actually known as the Akeres Habayis, the foundation of the home. That the future of Judaism depends on her. It depends on the atmosphere she creates in the home, what she relates to the children, saying Shema with them at night, in the morning. That was the focus. Shabbat was at home. The holidays were at home. Every single thing, every single aspect of Judaism was at home. Now, in more modern day history, or at least in the more secular world, the center of Judaism has been moved to the temple, to synagogue. And that always used to be just one part of Judaism. That was only one little aspect.
The vast majority of mitzvahs take place at home, with a small minority taking place. The biblical commandments, a vast majority take place.
So let's give examples, like the sukkah, is at home. The
kosher kitchen
is at home.
That's a massive part of Judaism, is the kosher kitchen. The laws of Jewish marriage, that takes place in the bedroom. There's the laws of how we dress. There's so many mitzvahs.
All the laws,
the Shabbos table.
They all happen at home. The only thing that happens in the shul,
one mitzvah, prayer,
is prayer.
Well, there's prayer, there's tefillin, there's the talis.
That's all part of prayer. That's
and
all
Torah
part
study.
of prayer.
Torah study.
Well, Torah study can be at home as well.
You're supposed to study at home.
Exactly. So the only thing that happens at shul is prayer. And the reason why women never had a role in that is because they were exempt from this specific mitzvah, because prayer is very, very timely. The morning service needs to be at a certain time. The afternoon service needs to be at a certain time. The evening service. And women, practically speaking, can't drop everything and run to go pray these 3 times a day. It's just not practical.
So what are the women busy with?
It's not. Well, the women are busy with perpetuating the Judaism. Women, you know what? Women, even when they're not busy, they're busy. Women have so much on their plate, and they can multitask. So they have a lot going on.
I just want to make a quick comment on that about what the women are doing. Some people think that when a woman is taking care of the kids, somehow that is sacrificing or forfeiting her own life. And I would just want to say that in my experience of meeting with people on their deathbeds and talking to them about their mortality, nobody has ever said to me that they wish they spent more time in the office. They wish they closed another deal. They wish they bought another piece of real estate. They always tell me how much they value and treasure the most precious things in their life, and that is their children, their family. So for a woman to be able to be exempt from prayer, because from any mitzvah which is associated with time, because she is rearing and nurturing and loving and caring for the children, that is not a forfeiture of her life. That is what we all live for.
Okay, but just to clarify, is that there's nothing wrong with the woman having a career and the woman blazing her own trail. That is awesome. But what we're talking about right now is that women were exempt from this specific mitzvah, with this specific obligation, which is being in the shul 3 times a day, because it's just not practical. So, having said that, when you have when in your mind frame, everything Jewish happens in shul, and then you come and you see, oh, wait, maybe this is not, I'm not included here, and there's a separation, and it kind of gets a little bit confusing, where you feel like you're being, the way people say, second-class citizens, but really it's not about that. It's about the fact that it wasn't an obligation for women to daven, and the women really have the brunt of the obligations in Judaism. Just when it comes to prayer, they just weren't given these specific.
But to be clear, we've set up our shul in such a way that the men and the women have exactly the same amount of space and the same access to the ark and to God. It's not like the women are somewhere in the back or something. They are, when they come, they're obviously just as obligated in prayer, just like the men.
Absolutely.
And treated with the same respect.
Just to add to that, and the reason why the men get aliyahs, because aliyah means an elevation. That's the way men get elevated, is by going to the Torah. Women are busy all day with elevations. They are getting elevated by dealing with Jewish souls and dealing with, as I said, their compartment of Judaism, which really, as I said, is really focused at home and on the family.
But to the core of the issue, so why are the men and the women separated? Why do we separate the men and the women in the synagogue? For what reason?
Okay, so the reason why men and women are sitting separately is, as we said, women are very good multitaskers. Men are not very good at multitasking. They're either praying or they're noticing the woman in front of them or next to them or behind them or whatever. It's just that's
so you're saying
just
the men can't focus on prayer if they're.
It's just I remember years ago when someone came to us for people would get really upset on Rosh Hashanah. We had a mechitza, and I would say to them, the Jewish people are very into family time. We are obsessed with family time. Everything is about family time. Every holiday is family time. Everything is family time. But it's about being the right time and the right place. When we are in synagogue, it is about connecting with God. It is about our connection with God. And men have a hard time connecting with God when there are.
So the way that Keith posed this question to me is that he said, why can't men control themselves in temple? You'd think that when they're in the synagogue, they should be able to be more spiritually in tuned and focused. And to this point, I want to just bring out an answer in brief, and that is like this, that God created this world in a perfect balance, where the good is in balance with the evil. The stronger the light, the more intense is the darkness to match it. When you've got forces of goodness, you've got forces of evil, which equally balance it out. And inside of each and every one of us, we have not one, but 2 souls. We have a good inclination and an evil inclination. When someone is more holy, does that mean that their evil inclination is weaker? No. It means that because their good inclination is stronger, is more intense, therefore they have a stronger evil inclination to match. This means they're rabbis who are potentially more holy, I guess, they're rabbis, then their evil inclination is also more intense. And hence, to answer your question, Keith, yes, when someone sits in shul, it's then that their evil inclination is elevated and is increased. And that's why we need to be more careful in the synagogue to make sure that there are no distractions to allow you to be able to focus in prayer.
And just to conclude on this topic is, I think what's really important in our Jewish society today is that women recognize their role in Judaism and be confident in it. And when you're confident in your position, you're confident in who you are, then you don't start feeling inferior. And I always say, Don't tell me I'm sitting on the other side of the mechitza. Whatever side I am on is the side. Everyone else is on the other side. So who decided that I'm on the other side? Only I can decide that. And so I want to leave Jewish women with that message that realize you are it. You are it. And wherever you are is the side.
God doesn't make mistakes. God created you to be you and not to try to be someone else. In fact, we strongly discourage people from converting to Judaism because we say the way God created you is good for you to be the way you are. You don't have to be like us in order to be yourself. Be all that you can be. So if you're a man, celebrate your connection with God as a man. If you're a woman, celebrate your unique connection with God as a woman. Bring a light to this world that only you can bring, that no one else in the history of mankind has been able to bring to this world. So that was our first question that we're happy to share with you here today. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler. Rebbitzin Chana Vigler is my wife, and together we are the founders and directors of the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. And today we're doing a show called A.M.A. It's Ask Me Anything. Our next question comes from Ed. And Ed wrote to me the following. Do you see an increase in anti-Semitism in this nation or in Florida during the last 20 years? What can be done to combat it, to counteract it? I think it's a very, very important question. You know, when you talk about anti-Semitism, it's the world's oldest hatred. Why does anti-Semitism happen? You know, as Jews, we've struggled with this question for thousands of years. If you think about all the nations that tried to wipe us out, I don't think there is any other nation on earth that has struggled for her survival as the Jewish people, even today in 2020. Yes, Ed, today more than ever, we are still probably the only country in the world that is trying to fight for her legitimacy, for there to be one sovereign Jewish nation in the entire world. Why is it? Why is it that the Egyptians and the Greeks and the Babylonians and the Nazis and the Cossacks and the Muslims and the, I don't know who else, the Crusaders, what is it that they had against us? They hated us when we were rich. And they said, because you're rich. But guess what? They also hated us when we were poor because they said we were not contributing anything to society. They hated us when we had no land, no homeland, when we were vagabonds in their countries. And today when we have our own country, they hate us because we have our own country. They hated us when we were capitalists, and they hated us when we were communists. None of these is the reason for anti-Semitism. The Torah tells us that the hatred of anti-Semitism is completely irrational. You'll never find a reason for it. But here today, I want to give you my best shot at a reason. You know why Mount Sinai is called Mount Sinai? When God gave us the Torah, the word Sinai is in Hebrew also hatred. It's the mountain of hatred, because it was this mountain, the giving of the Torah, that made all those nations hate us, because we became the chosen people. Think about it. We're all the children of God, and God picks one child as his favorite. It's sibling rivalry, my friends. That is how I explain anti-Semitism.
I think a lot of anti-Semitism is based on misinformation, based on a lack of education. And I think that the onus is on us, first of all, to educate. And secondly, is to realize that when people look at us, they don't see us as individuals. They don't see Rabbi David Vigler. They don't see Chana Vigler. They don't see each one of us individually. They see us as the whole Jewish people. And we have to remember that we are ambassadors. And what they see in us is a representation of the entire nation of Israel. And so I think that we have to remember that and always be on our best behavior and make sure that we're setting that right example and showing people what Jews are really like. Do they have horns? No, of course they don't have horns. So many people still think that. And I think that by us just being good examples is really the best way that we can fight anti-Semitism. And of course, education, because other than that, blind hate, you're never going to be able to change it. We can't fix that. But if we can at least educate people and set the right examples, then we're on the road, on a good path.
You know, Han, you remind me of when we were first married, and we were spending some time in my native South Africa. It was on the last night of our vacation there in South Africa. We saw that huge sign on a construction zone. It was a beautiful sign by Johnny Walker, you know, the whiskey, the alcohol. And it said, Johnny Walker, right? It said, "The world stops to watch a man who knows where he's going." I'm going to repeat that. The world stops to watch a man who knows where he's going. It was such an inspirational line, you know, as we thought about, as we dreamed about our future and about leading a Jewish community to greater heights, leading a community to where they need to be as opposed to where they want to go necessarily, that people are awed by strong and striking leadership. We are the chosen people, and the world all knows it. When we're embarrassed about that, I think it makes them feel bad and it makes them disrespect us.
They feel it.
But when we respect ourselves, when we can stand tall and proud and say, yes, we are the chosen people, we're unapologetic about it, but we're not arrogant about it. We're proud, but we're not arrogant about it. We recognize the awesome sense of responsibility that it is to be the chosen people, just like you might be as the oldest sibling in your family. Everybody knows the oldest kid gets a little bit extra attention, a little bit extra confidence, right?
Maybe not.
According to Jewish law, the firstborn gets a double inheritance, right? There's always special treatment somewhat to the firstborn. If you're the chosen people, then act like it. Because when we respect ourselves, the world, the nations of the world will respect us as well, because the world stops to watch a man who knows where he's going. So if you've just tuned in, welcome, and we're honored to have you here with us on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens and on facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. You're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler and my wife, Rebbitzin Chana Vigler. Both of us co-founders and co-directors of the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. And today we're doing a special show called A.M.A, which means Ask Me Anything. We're taking your questions, many questions that we were sent in advance, and we're looking forward to covering them right here, right now on A.M.A. Ask Me Anything. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please do post them to youtube.com/Jewish Gardens and to facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. Can we get into the Holocaust question?
Go for it.
Or are we okay on time? I think we can.
I think we could.
We're getting into it? Okay. So the next question, which was posed to us over here, was like this. Where is it? Very interesting question. Here. This question came in as follows. It's the basis of an endless discussion I have with a friend of mine. I can't answer the question as it frustrates me as well. We say God is all-powerful. We say God is good. Why couldn't God keep the Holocaust from happening if he is all-powerful? Where was God during the Holocaust? We're going to try to answer this one in about 4 minutes. You think we could do this one?
Yes, absolutely.
Ouch, that's going to be a rough one. We're going to try to do this one. Okay, so first of all, I want to say, friends, God in the Holocaust. First thing I want to say is that it wasn't God that did the Holocaust. It was man that did the Holocaust. God gave us freedom of choice. That means it's a double-edged sword. We can do amazingly good things, but we can also do unfathomably evil things. That's for starters. But the second thing I want to tell you, here we are, we're standing, 75 years after the Holocaust, 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz.
Oh, yeah.
And we're able to have the liberty and the luxury of looking back at the Holocaust, and I ask you this question. Who won the war? Was it the defenseless Auschwitz prisoners? Or was it the powerful SS Nazi officers? Think about that question for just a moment. During the Holocaust, it was very difficult for us to think about it. It's only today, because we're a second or third generation, that we can allow ourselves the ability, the luxury of sitting back and looking at this from a bit of a distance and recognizing that God actually did save us from the Holocaust. Our chances of survival during World War II were pretty much very close to zero. Yet somehow or other, we were the bottom 1% of mankind. And today we sit here in Palm Beach, Florida, in this magnificent paradise, and we are living a beautiful life, thank God. The Nazis are nowhere to be heard of. They're illegal. They're despised. They're hated. We won this war. We have survived. We've landed on our feet. Admittedly, if I was God, I wouldn't have done it exactly the way that God
very
did.
wounded feet.
Wounded, but we've survived. And I wouldn't have done it the way that God did it, but you know what? I'm not God. So I'm sure that God can work things out. But at the end of the day, you have to give God the credit and say, yes, God was there during the Holocaust because we are here today. There is no other explanation as to why Hitler couldn't have finished what he was so committed to when he started. You agree with that?
Well, I think to better understand this concept, I think it's important to realize that our lives and the world as we see it is a big puzzle piece. We're a game of chess. And God is constantly moving these pieces to get to his goal. And as mortals, we have no idea, we have no understanding of why he makes certain moves to get there. And sometimes these moves are very, very upsetting to us, and they're very painful. But yet, these moves are needed to get to the end result, which of course is is Mashiach and the fulfillment of the purpose of creation. But just to consider is that this really is a question about why there is suffering in the world altogether. That's really what this question is. How can God allow suffering to happen? That's what this person is really asking. And I think that it's important that we realize that we actually don't want an answer. We don't want to justify the suffering, because the minute we justify it, the minute we give an answer, we lose all of our sensitivity. The minute we say, oh, that's why God had to do it, it justifies it. And then it's not bad anymore. And then we don't empathize and we don't sympathize with people, and we lose a very important piece of ourselves. And the way I think about this often is, you see a young mother, God forbid, with young children who suddenly dies. And it is the most absolutely painful thing in the world. And we just can't understand, how could God do this? How could such a thing happen? And then you realize this young widower actually needed to marry this other woman afterwards, because there were other children that needed to be born from this union. These children needed to be orphans because they needed that experience for what they were going to become later in life. Now, does it take away the pain and the awfulness? No. But also, once we have that answer, is like, oh, okay, now I see why you had to suffer through that, because X, Y, and Z had to happen afterwards. And like I said, we can never justify suffering. We can never justify pain. But we have to remember that there is an end story, there is an end goal, and there is a master plan that we don't understand. And not only do we not understand it, we don't want to understand it, because we don't want to lose empathy. And so we need to say, God, we refuse this. We do not allow you to bring bad upon us. We want you to bring goodness that is revealed, because as we said, everything God does is good, but we just don't see it. We don't understand it. And it is our responsibility to pray to God and have that conversation with God and say, demand, and say, no, we don't want this anymore. We deserve better. And I think that helps us a little bit in that conversation. What do you think?
It's like we often say that everything will be good in the end. If it's not good, it means that it's not the end. If it's not good, it means it's not the end. And when we look at the Holocaust from 2020 perspective, hindsight is 2020 vision. When we look back at the Holocaust, at the time it was unthinkable, and it still is unthinkable. But the fact of the matter is, in the end, now it is good. Eventually, that horrible pain did end up leading us to this extraordinary prosperity and goodness that we are all experiencing today. Just something to think about. Not to answer the question. I don't think that we can possibly answer this question in an A.M.A. 7-minute session. But I do think that at least it gives you something to think about, to ponder further in your consideration of the question of God and the Holocaust.
I don't think that and I don't think we'll really ever know why it needed to happen. And I don't think we'll ever get that answer. Maybe when Mashiach comes, we'll understand and we'll say, okay, this is why the Jewish people had to suffer for so many thousands of years, why we needed to go through all the suffering and torture. But it's really not for us to say.
We've got to go to a brief commercial break. We'll be right back right after this. Our YouTube and Facebook viewers, we encourage you to stay with us. We'll be right back in just literally a moment. We're just pausing for the radio commercial segment. But I do want to ask our Facebookers and YouTube friends to keep your comments and questions coming. We're grateful to have you with us, and we're refining this product. So we're looking forward to taking this further. We're going to go straight back into it. Okay, I hope we did okay on that timing for the radio, but it's a 24-minute segment. I'm not sure exactly how we did. I forgot to time it, but we have some very interesting questions coming up.
I think it was good because we started a little bit late, and now it's at 28.
Yeah, I figured. That's what I calculated. But we're going to be covering questions about the afterlife. I see a question coming in now about tattoos.
Yeah, we're actually going to be covering that topic.
Lots of interesting questions. So please do send us your questions. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we possibly can. And are you ready to roll?
Yes, ready.
Ready? No drink? You need a water?
No, I'm good.
Phew. Okay, good. So we're trying to keep it light, trying to keep it fast forward, moving nicely at a good pace. And please send us your questions, all right? So here we are. And Mike, are you there? We're going to go straight back to segment number 2. All right? And we're going to do 1, 2. Some earphones, 1 second. Mike, you ready for segment number 2? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Mike, are you there? Okay, I think we're just going to go straight into it, right? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Separating the facts from the fiction and the Baba Mises from the bottom line. You're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler. My wife is Rebbitzin Chana Vigler. Together, we are the spiritual leaders of the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. And we today are doing a special show presentation called A.M.A. Ask Me Anything. By popular demand, lots of questions coming our way. We are excited to spend the next few minutes answering your very good questions with hopefully answers that are just as good or maybe even better. First question coming up here today on A.M.A. Ask Me Anything is Jews and the afterlife. Where was that? The Jews and the afterlife. What do Jews believe in the afterlife? A lot of people believe that a lot of people are under the impression that Jews do not believe in the afterlife. Hannah?
Oh yeah, people think that it's a Christian-based thing. Absolutely.
So the Torah tells us very clearly that there is most certainly an afterlife. While the written Torah doesn't explicitly speak of it, the oral Torah, which is the explanation of the Torah, of the written Torah that was given by Moses by God on Mount Sinai, speaks at long length of the afterlife. The basis of the principle is that our identity is not just a physical body, fingers and toes and skin and knees and eyes. Our identity is a physical body together with a spiritual soul. Our soul is literally a piece of God. And just like God is eternal, immortal, and forever, so too our godly souls are forever. They cannot die by definition, just like God cannot die. God is forever, so too we are forever. It is a basic law of physics. It's called the law of the conservation of energy. That energy is never lost. Energy is never lost. It is only transformed into another form. If that is true of everything in this world, how much more so is it true of our very lives, that when we die, we don't just cease, like stop. No such thing. There's the law of the conservation of energy. Our lives change into another form. The Rebbe once put it this way by saying that when we die, when a loved one dies, it's like they're moving upstairs. So they're living now, instead of in your apartment, they live 1 floor above you, which means you don't get to see them all that often. And the angle that you see them is different. It used to be that you saw them eye to eye. Now you have to look up on the balcony to be able to see them. Maybe you'll bump into them.
It's a new relationship.
It's a new format of the relationship, which until now you used to do by sharing a cup of coffee in the morning, and going for a nice walk together. But now the dynamic of the relationship is transformed into Yizkar, into Kaddish, into kiddush, into mitzvahs, into Torah study to elevate the soul of your loved one.
Yeah, I think that the word afterlife is actually very deceiving, because what life is it talking about? It's talking about the life of the body. Because the life of a soul, it's not an afterlife. It's a continuum. It never starts and never ends. So it just takes on the form of a body for however many years it's in that body. But then beyond that, the body kind of expires, comes to an expiration date, but the soul never expires. The soul never ends, never stops, never dies. So I wouldn't actually call it the afterlife. I would call it the continuous life.
You know, Han, I couldn't agree with you more, because the word life in Hebrew is chayim. It says that those who hold on to God are alive, right? And God is alive, which means that God is forever. So life is forever. That to speak about an afterlife is something which doesn't really make sense. To speak about the after of forever doesn't really flow, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let's just give a crash course in the afterlife. So we know we're familiar with life in this world, right? You got a body and you got a soul. But what happens when you die? It's the body can't continue anymore. So what happens now? The body can't continue. The soul is released from the shackles of the body, and now the soul goes back up to heaven where it came from. By the way, that happens to us every single night when we go to sleep. Sleep is called 1/60th of death, because your soul goes up to heaven. It comes back in the morning. That's a good thing. But you know, when you die, it just doesn't come back. When you go up to heaven, you're sent to one of a few places. Either you go to heaven, Gan Eden, which is the place where the souls are able to experience their greatest pleasure, which is being in the presence of their source, presence of God. And sometimes the soul needs a little dry cleaning. You got a little schmutzek, you know? So that's why you go to purgatory, what's known as Gehinnom, which is not hell, which is eternal damnation. We don't believe in eternal damnation, but we do believe in purgatory, which is a purging, a cleansing process. Just like you're on the way to a wedding and you got some mud on your shirt, so you go clean it before you go into the wedding. That's what happens. Before you go into heaven, you clean off the schmutz in purgatory and you go straight into heaven. There's one other option. I mean, there are many options, but one general option called reincarnation, and that is coming back to be born in this world. Today we're keeping it light. We're not going to go too deep into this, but there's the concept of reincarnation called Gilgul, which is a soul returning back to this world in another body. This is previous lives. All of us, the Kabbalah tells us, have been here before. So when you meet someone and you get an eerie sense of comfort or discomfort from them, it's quite likely that you knew each other or didn't like each other in a previous lifetime. So absolutely, the afterlife, the belief in a life beyond this world is fundamental to Judaism. And any other religions that believe in that, well, guess where they got it from?
Well, and I think that this conversation is much more important than we are actually giving it credit to, because to me, this is the fundamental, this is the basis of the way we live. Understanding that we are made up of a soul, not just a body, helps us remember that we've been put on this earth for a purpose. We're here to get something done. We're here to learn certain lessons. We're here to meet certain people for a reason. And it's never random and it's never by accident. And I think that keeping that in mind gives us a whole new consciousness, a whole new awareness to every single thing that happens in our lives, because we realize that the reason our soul was placed in this specific body to go through its specific challenges or have its specific gifts is because it needs to get to that end of that journey, get to that destination where it needs to go. And we need to keep aware of that and make sure that we're kind of moving it along and learning those lessons that we need to learn and recognizing those people that we need to recognize. And often the people that we struggle with or that we have challenges with, it's because our soul needs to reconcile with that soul. And that could be the entire reason that our soul was put on this earth. It's because we need to create certain relationships, usually with the people we struggle with most. That's why. And that's actually your sign to know what your soul's job is on this earth. Think about what is most difficult for you to do, what is most difficult for you to accomplish, and that's your cue that that's probably what your mission is.
So if you've lost a loved one, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, Think about how much they need you right now. They might be alone in their new location. Imagine you move to Hawaii or to Zimbabwe tomorrow. You'd probably appreciate a care package. Wouldn't it be nice if you wake up tomorrow morning and you find a FedEx package, a box coming from your friends back home, right? That's what your loved ones need right now. If they're left this world, then where they are, they need you right now. Do a mitzvah, make a prayer, say a kaddish, give tzedakah. In the elevation of their soul, you'll be sending them a care package.
And just an important addition is that the souls of your loved ones can always see you and they always hear you. And you can always feel free to talk to them. They will find ways to answer you. They are always around and they're always protecting you. And they are whispering in your ears, taking you along on your journey and telling you, go this direction or go that direction. We just have to be listening closely enough to actually hear what they're saying.
If you just tuned in, you're listening to the Rabbi and the Rebbitzin. I'm Rabbi David Vigler. My wife is Rebbitzin Chana Vigler, and together we are the founders and spiritual leaders of the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. You can learn more about us at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens or facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. Today, we are hosting a show called A.M.A, Ask Me Anything, and we're trying to keep up with the questions. We've got to speed up the pace, Hannah, to keep up with these questions, because there's another question coming in right here about cremation. A cremation as well as tattoos. I see by Luna as well, a question coming in about cremation and tattoos. What is up with Jewish people and cremation? Is it true that cremation is something which Jewish people are not allowed to do? Are Jewish people allowed to be buried with tattoos? I'm going to start this one off.
Go ahead.
The answer is cremation and tattoos are both absolutely prohibited by the Jewish tradition, by the Torah. The Torah explicitly tells us that you're not allowed to do them. And the reason is because we do not own our bodies. Our souls were invested in a vehicle called our human body. It doesn't belong to us. It's a loan. It's a lease. It's just like when you leased your car, your Mercedes or your Toyota. At the end of the lease, you have to return that car in the same condition you received it, back to the leasing company. But if you were to return the Mercedes-Benz in an urn, I don't think they'd appreciate that very, very much. God leases us this magnificent piece of engineering and ingenuity and this incredible machine that's called the human body. And it's our responsibility to care for it. That's why we have to keep ourselves safe during pandemics and not do anything which is too dangerous. This is the reason why we're not allowed to put our lives in danger. This is the reason why you're not allowed to commit suicide, because suicide is self-murder. You're not allowed to murder anybody else, and you're not allowed to murder your own body. Burning your body is destroying your body. And that is a violation of the lease with which we were given our body. And the same principle applies to tattoos. A tattoo is a permanent marker on the human body. You can't just color on this thing, and you can't amputate randomly. Obviously, if you need to amputate to save a life, you have to. And if you need to do a surgery to keep yourself healthy, you're allowed to do that. But to just cosmetically tattoo on the human body is a violation of the terms of the contract, a violation of the fundamental understanding of our relationship with God, that God is entrusting us with a body so that we can fulfill our purpose on this earth. And that's the reason why we're not allowed to do tattoos.
One more thing that I would add is that, we don't know what it feels like to be dead. We don't know what the human body wants or doesn't want when it's dead. But the Torah tells us that the human body craves to be in the earth. That's what it wants. And so we bury people under the ground because that's what comforts them. That's what feels good for a dead body, if you could even use those words for a dead body, because of course a dead body doesn't feel
it's its most natural state of being. It comes from the earth.
Exactly. So as it says, we come from the earth and we return to the earth. And so we know that that's where they feel most comfortable. That's where they belong. We're actually meant to bury people very quickly after they die, because they're not meant to just be hanging around for a while. It doesn't feel good. It's very frustrating for a dead body to just be hanging around. For the soul, for sure, and the body. And there's so many beautiful rituals that come along with the Jewish burial that it's so painful when a body is denied that, especially for the family that's left behind. We know that a dead body can hear for a certain amount of time. The soul actually hovers above the body for a bit of time as well, above the grave. And why would anybody want to deny that to their loved one or to themselves? And I think it's just from not knowing. I think it's just ignorance. And one of our big campaigns have been really to teach people about the importance of a Jewish burial.
This is great, Han. Great answer over there. I just want to say, we want to finish with Luna. Your point over there, Luna, on facebook.com/Jewish Gardens, is that can you be buried with a tattoo? And the answer is technically some Jewish cemeteries will not allow it because the person is dying in sin, so to speak, right? So they're very, very strict. They might not allow it because the person is dying in sin. The fact of the matter is that the vast majority of Jewish cemeteries will not have a problem with it because of the basic understanding that a person might very well have regretted that violation of Torah, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can't take it away. So that's where the myth comes from. Technically, maybe in far more religious communities, they might have been more strict with regards to the burying with a tattoo. But today, where we're far more understanding of people's life journeys and how they may have, they didn't do it in order to anger God, because if they did it in order to anger God and they died in sin, then maybe they would have been excluded. Just to give a quick example, somebody who dies in suicide would sometimes be left out of the Jewish cemetery, buried outside. And the reason is, again, because they died in sin, self-murder, without the ability to atone for that sin. So anyone who dies in a state of sin might be buried outside of a Jewish cemetery. But today we always give people the benefit of the doubt. Even in the case of suicide, we say it must have just been mental illness and they meant well, they just simply couldn't control themselves. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to The Rabbi and Rebbitzin. Rebbitzin Chana Vigler is my wife. I'm Rabbi David Vigler, both of us the founders and spiritual leaders of Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. Learn about us online at youtube.com/Jewish Gardens and youtube.com, facebook.com and youtube.com/Jewish Gardens. Another interesting question here coming in from Stephanie. I think it was Stephanie who was asking about a haircut. Something about a haircut. Here, I noticed a cute haircut, but thank you. But are you permitted to trim your beard? Interesting question. You ready? Should I do this one?
Very well. You asked it, and I got to answer it.
Trimming the beard. Stephanie, the answer is that the Torah says you're not allowed to cut. You're not allowed to destroy your beard. That's what the Torah says. You're not allowed to destroy your beard. Lo tashchit pe'at zkanecha in Hebrew. The question is, however, what is the definition of destroying your beard? So all opinions agree that a razor is considered of the beard, and that is biblically prohibited. However, there are many opinions that say that a scissor cut, which is 2 blades, not one razor, but 2 blades, is sufficiently removed from the face to be considered not destroying the beard. And that's why many religious Jews will shave their beard. They'll never use a razor, but they will use a scissor to be able to get around that prohibition of destroying their beard. And that's the reason now in Chabad, we adhere to the more strict opinion, which is the view of the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, that any cutting of the beard is considered destroying the beard, and that's why we don't cut our beards at all. And there was a lady, remember Shola, of blessed memory? She once asked me, she says, "Oh, Rabbi, where do you have your beard groomed? It looks so perfect." I said, "Shola, you gotta be kidding me." And when I explained to her that I've never in my life even so much as put any form of blade near my beard, she couldn't believe it. I see it as the mane of a lion. Is that what you were about to say?
I was going to say that, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but I was going to say something else too. I
never just say that. I was going to say
yeah.
So I see I feel the beard is like a mane of a lion. Why would a lion want to shave his mane off? It looked like a lioness, I think, right? So I'm so proud of my beard. I love it. Go ahead, honey.
Yeah, but I also want to point out that the fact that you never ever shaved, your beard is very, very soft. Because a lot of people will ask me this question.
And it grows slowly.
Right, that's right. If you even shaved once, then the beard grows very, very long and it's rough and prickly. But if you've never ever touched it before, then it's actually soft like the hairs of your head and it doesn't grow as long. So just a little tidbit there.
Okay, separating the facts from the fiction, the Baba Mises from the bottom line. You're listening to the Rabbi and Rebbitzin. We're talking about A.M.A. Ask me anything. The questions are coming in fast and furious, and we're going to go to as many as we can. Another question coming in here is about the yarmulke. So why do Jews wear a yarmulke if it is not a biblical mitzvah? You are correct. It is not a biblical mitzvah. So why do we wear the yarmulke? Doesn't say it anywhere in the Torah. You know, there's a joke going around that the Jews in the desert, they went through the desert for 40 years, and you think they didn't cover their heads, right? But to be clear, it is not a biblical commandment. The word yarmulke means in awe of the king.
Yarmulke.
Like yireh. Yireh means in awe, like in fear of the king. That's two words in Aramaic or Hebrew. Basically being accountable to something higher than yourself. It's a matter of being conscious, of being aware that there is something above me. And I have to tell you, wherever I go, people will stop me in the street and they'll say, Shalom. And I'll look at them and I'll say, well, how did you know I was Jewish? And that always becomes a fun conversation. But there's always a sense of identity wherever I go. I'm constantly reminded and aware of my identity as a Jew, as an ambassador of God, of the chosen people. So that is a very, very tangible presence of in my consciousness. But Hannah, why don't women wear yarmulkes?
Hell, men are very one-track minded. So when they're busy making a living and at work, it's very easy to think how great they are, how wonderful they are, how they were able to build up such a great business, and how talented they are. And they need those reminders. They need a reminder. Hey, hold your horses. It's not all from you. You didn't do this by yourself. You had a lot of help that was leading you along this way. So men need those reminders. Women, I like to say, really don't need reminders. Even if we're at work, even if we're wherever we are constantly thinking about all those people that need help, and thinking about our children, thinking about our families. And we are constantly in conversation with God. We don't ever forget that there's a God above us. We're always, God, just please help my child, please help my husband, please help my friend. And we're in constant, our lips are in constant conversation with God. So we don't actually need that actual physical reminder like men do.
It's interesting you say that, Hannah, because when God came to give the Torah to the Jewish people, he says to Moses, first tell it to the ladies. After you tell the ladies about it, about this Torah thing, then you can go to the men. Why go to the ladies first? Because the women are more spiritually attuned.
Inclined.
They're more spiritually sensitive than men are. This is something that the Torah is telling us. So the women are the ones that need to be, the men.
The men need reminders.
The men are the ones that need the reminders, because women are naturally more spiritual. They're more connected to God. And maybe that's also the reason why they don't need to pray as much. Right?
They have a deeper connection with God.
We're running out of time. We've got just 3 minutes left of your so we better wrap it up. But I just want to say, something very interesting that the Torah tells us about a yarmulke is that Moses wasn't buried in the promised land. Moses wasn't buried in the promised land, but Joseph, who was prime minister of Egypt, he was buried in the promised land, buried in Shechem, what's known as Nablus in the English translation of the city. But Moses asks of God, he says, I brought the bones of Joseph from Egypt. I schlepped him. I schlepped the bones of Joseph all the way from Egypt for 40 years. Why is he being buried in the land of Israel, but me? No. This is my life's wish, says Moses. God tells him something amazing. He says, he who represented the land will be buried in the land. He who represented the land will merit to experience the land. And he who didn't represent the land will not merit to experience the land. What God was talking about was that in their biblical encounters, when Moses met his wife at the well, she didn't recognize him as a Jew. She thought he was an Egyptian. Moses didn't dress like a Jew. Joseph, on the other hand, when he encountered people, like when he was in the dungeon in Genesis, they all knew that he was a Hebrew. They all knew that he was an Israelite. The one who dressed like a Jew merited to experience the land of Israel. And the one who didn't dress like Israel, Moses, he was the one that didn't merit the land of Israel. And today, as we struggle so hard for our identity as Jewish people, as the land of Israel and the country of Israel, having her right to exist, we're being challenged, right, from all our neighbors and from the EU and God knows where else. When we wear our yarmulke, when we dress like Jews, that's when we merit from heaven to experience the Holy Land. The Holy Land comes to those who have the courage to wear her on their sleeves. And the Holy Land is taken away from those, unfortunately, like Moses, who didn't, for whatever reason, didn't wear her on her sleeve. And that's one of the reasons. It's not a biblical mitzvah to wear a yarmulke, but you know what? It's representing who we are. It is our very core identity.
Yeah, and we're representing who we are wherever we go. And let's make sure that we're giving the right message.
Well, this has been fun.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. This was so much fun. We look forward to doing it again in the future.
Maybe next week. Send us your email. Send us your questions to rabbi@jewishgardens.com. That's rabbi@jewishgardens.com. We're going to try to put them in order so we can get through as many questions as possible.
Yeah, because we do have quite a few that we didn't even get
so
to
many
yet.
questions didn't reach you. We apologize to all of our YouTube friend and Facebook friends on youtube.com/Jewish Gardens and on facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. We apologize. We didn't get to all the questions that were posed to us today, but please do email them to us and we'll try to get to them next week if we are able to do it. We'll do another A.M.A, another Ask Me Anything.
Good.
This has been fun. We look forward to seeing you next week. Send that email, please, to rabbi@jewishgardens.com, rabbi@jewishgardens.com with your questions. We'll hope to get to them next week on A.M.A, Ask Me Anything. Shalom, over and out. Thank you for joining us here. And to our YouTube and Facebook friends, we want to say thank you for joining us here today. So sorry we didn't get to all these questions. Luna, you both are fabulous and I appreciate learning. You make it so much fun. Thank you for doing this for all of us who want to know. Thank you. That's so sweet.
Thank you, Luna.
Wow.
We enjoy it.
So Luna, your parents are on a wall.
We should have a conversation.
Yeah, well, we can say it to you right now. We're off the radio, but we can say it to you right now that, Luna, I think that, yeah, we should talk. We should talk. All right, let's talk about that. Please send me an email, rabbi@jewishgardens.com. I'd love to chat with you about that. And we hope that you enjoyed this presentation. We're trying to have some fun and spread the love, spread the light. We thrive off of your questions, so please send them to us, to rabbi@jewishgardens.com, and we'll take it from there. All right, guys. Shalom. You there?
Yes.
And over now, we're going to try to
Good
break
to
up
see
these
you.
videos. We're going to try to break up these videos into smaller segments so we can share them on social media. Let us know how you felt about the show. We'd really appreciate hearing from you. Thank you very much, everybody. Shalom. Over and out. Ezra, hi. How you doing? Nice to see you. Okay, great.